Now, the trial against two men accused of killing three Cosas students back in 1982 has been postponed to next year. Former police officers Christian Rorich and Tumelo Machaba appeared in court this week. They're facing charges of kidnapping, murder and crimes against humanity. This is the first time apartheid crime against individuals is being tried in South Africa. So very, very important legally that we keep an eye on this. I'm joined by Tumelo Machaba from the Legal Resource Centre this morning. Tumelo, good morning to you. And if we can just go back, because we need to really revisit 1982. Why was this case so significant? Even if all these years later, we still need to talk about this case. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. Well, this is a historical and very significant case. We know that the Cosas were four anti-apartheid activists, and initially it was made to believe that they actually blew themselves up. But it was only when the TRC conducted hearings that it was actually found out that they were assassinated. So this story is very significant because in South Africa, as you mentioned, it is the first time that the crime against humanity of apartheid is brought forward. And even though they are charged with kidnapping and murder, we have added charges of international law, mainly because of the Constitution. Section 232 says that customary international law is law in South Africa. And so that is why in their indictment we have added charges under international law.
Because it's taken a long time for it to reach this stage, the crime itself happening back in the early 80s. How long before we started seeing these two in court, and when did this process start? Because many people are also saying, once again, it's a very bad example of justice delayed is justice denied.
Well, you know, the TRC hearings happened in the 1990s, around that time. And the accused in this matter and their superiors, who unfortunately have passed away, they applied for amnesty and the TRC denied their amnesty. And there were other criminal cases in which amnesty was denied or amnesty was not applied for. And the TRC did due diligence in referring these matters to SAPS and to the National Prosecuting Authority. So during a period of the 2003 to 2017 up until today, there's been a lot of postponement and challenges and political interferences in these matters finally being prosecuted. So this matter finally being in court today or yesterday was a huge milestone. So it's only unfortunate that this matter is now postponed once again to next year.
In case I missed that, I'm very sorry. What is the exact reasons that we're seeing another postponement? What needs to happen in order to get this underway next year then? What was missing this time around?
Well, you know, both parties, the eNCA and the defense, were ready to lead their evidence yesterday. But we have the South African Litigation Centre, SALC, who needed to bring in their application as amicus in this matter. So the court then decided to hear their application on the 23rd of October 2023, which subsequently led to the trial only being heard next year, 22 January.
I'm curious as well, when they're facing charges, I'll just repeat them for viewers who weren't with us at the start of the conversation, kidnapping, murder, but I'm curious on the crimes against humanity, Tumelo, could that be, if they are found guilty of crimes against humanity, despite being convicted here in South Africa, could that end up at an international court, as we've seen with other crimes against humanity?
Well, that would be interesting. And I mean, that's discussions that we've been having ever since this matter started. But for instance, if they were to appeal this matter going forward, South Africa has its own appeal system in place. We have the SCA. So it would be really interesting if this matter would be appealed right up to the International Criminal Court.
I'm just curious as well, apart from the legal side, and obviously I know you're wearing your legal hat at the moment, this must be incredibly infuriating, not just for you as the legal teams, but also for the families to have to wait this long just to try and get it into court. Never mind getting answers, just to get it to court as well. What's the families been like of the victims? Do you know it all?
Yes, of course. You know, obviously when the matter is postponed, that is definitely what they don't want to hear. The families traveled. The matter was to be heard yesterday in the Gauteng South Court in Johannesburg. And they were obviously very devastated. This matter has been postponing. For them, it's not that it's been postponing for 22 years, ever since this was known about, but ever since their loved ones died, which is 1982, that's 40 years a while ago, you know. So,
Sure.
of course, they're devastated. A lot of planning has been put into this, and everyone obviously is very devastated.
No, of course it is. Of course it is. As I say goodbye to you, though, I know I mentioned in the introduction to you that it's going to be delayed until, or postponed rather, till next year. You don't happen to know an exact date, just so we can make sure that we are on top of that. Do you know offhand?
Yes, so the trial is set for the 22nd of January 2023.